Most people assume loneliness arrives suddenly. A breakup, a move, a falling out, but for some, it never arrives at all. It was already there. There's a particular kind of silence that lives in someone who hasn't had a friend in years. Not the comfortable quiet of introversion. Not the chosen solitude of monks or artists. Something else. Something that doesn't announce itself in conversations or show up in therapy sessions. It just exists, day after day, building a psychology most will never recognize. Your brain doesn't register the absence of friendship as a preference. It registers it as injury. Neuroscience has confirmed what the friendless already know. Social exclusion activates the same neural pathways as a broken bone. The anterior cingulate cortex lights up. The body floods with stress hormones. Except there's no cast for this. No healing timeline. Just the dull, persistent ache that your nervous system interprets as danger, even when you're perfectly safe. The body doesn't understand the difference between being abandoned by your tribe in the wilderness and being passed over at lunch tables for a decade. What happens next isn't dramatic. It's architectural. You begin constructing a self that doesn't need witnesses. Every rejection, every unanswered text, every birthday spent alone becomes a brick in a wall you didn't realize you were building. At first, it's protection. Then it's identity. Then it's the only structure you trust. The friendless don't lack social skills. They've simply learned that reaching out is expensive. And the price isn't rejection. It's the moment after rejection, when you're alone again, and the silence feels heavier than before. So you stop paying. You stop reaching. You develop a kind of emotional conservatism, spending energy only on guaranteed returns, which, in the realm of human connection, means spending almost nothing at all. Here's what no one tells you about prolonged isolation. It makes you sharp. While others are navigating group dynamics and managing social performance, the friendless are watching, observing. They notice patterns in human behavior that the socially embedded miss entirely. They see the performance in kindness, the transaction in generosity, the fear underneath most social bonding. They become anthropologists of a world they no longer inhabit. This clarity comes with a cost. When you see connection as theater, participating in it becomes unbearable. Authenticity starts to feel like the only moral option, and most social interaction starts to feel like compromise. You develop standards that protect you from shallow relationships, but those same standards make any relationship nearly impossible. You become someone who would rather be alone than perform. And society reads this as brokenness. But it might be something closer to refusal. The timeline matters more than most realize. A child without friends learns that belonging is conditional. A teenager without friends learns that their personality is somehow wrong. An adult without friends learns that change might be pointless. And someone in their 30s or beyond without friends, they've learned something most people never confront, that you can survive just fine without what everyone insists you need. That realization is either liberating or devastating, often both. There's a stage where the friendless develop a kind of superpower, radical self-reliance. They become people who don't check their phones for validation, don't need consensus to make decisions, don't collapse when criticized. Their emotional stability comes from within, which is rarer and more valuable than most acknowledge. But here's the trap. Self-reliance, when complete, becomes indistinguishable from isolation. You stop needing people. Then you stop wanting them. Then you stop knowing how to let them in, even when you're desperate to. The muscle that reaches out atrophies. The instinct to share dies quietly. You become capable, functional, completely self-contained. And somewhere in that process, you cross a line. Stage 7 isn't about being friendless. It's about becoming someone for whom friendship is no longer structurally possible. Not because you're incapable of connection, but because the architecture of your inner world no longer has a door. You've built something beautiful and complete and utterly closed. The friendless often possess a quality that others find unsettling. They don't need you. And in a world where most relationships are built on mutual dependency, someone who genuinely doesn't need validation, company, or reassurance feels wrong. Dangerous even, because they remind everyone else how fragile their own connections might be. How much of friendship is habit, proximity, fear of being alone. The friendless know that most people aren't friends. They're just people who haven't left yet. This knowledge makes them honest, sometimes too honest. They say what others think but soften. They skip the pleasantries that oil social machinery. They don't pretend to care about things that bore them. And slowly, without meaning to, they confirm everyone's quiet suspicion that maybe they're friendless for a reason. But what if the reason isn't what people think? What if it's not social incompetence or personality defects or hidden toxicity? What if some people are simply built for a different kind of existence? One where depth matters more than frequency, where silence is richer than small talk, where being known by yourself is worth more than being liked by many. The tragedy isn't that they're alone, it's that they've found peace in it. And once you find peace in solitude, the window for connection doesn't just narrow, it calcifies. You stop seeing friendship as something you're missing and start seeing it as something that would disrupt the life you've carefully built. Someone else's needs become an intrusion. Their expectations become pressure. Their presence, however kind, becomes noise in a space you've learned to keep quiet. This is the permanent stage. Not friendlessness, but contentment within it. The question that haunts this space isn't whether the friendless can make friends. Most could, with effort. The question is whether they still want to. Whether the cost of letting someone in is worth the disruption to a self that has finally, painfully, become whole on its own terms. There are people who have spent years alone and emerged stronger, clearer, more certain of who they are than anyone surrounded by friends could ever be. They've walked through the fire of social exclusion and come out tempered, not broken, but they've also lost something that can't be recovered. The ease of connection, the lightness of belonging, the simple, stupid joy of being around people who know your name and laugh at your jokes and remember your birthday without setting a reminder. Maybe you're watching this because you recognize yourself in these words. Maybe you've lived in this silence so long you forgot what noise sounds like. Maybe you've built a life that works, that makes sense, that doesn't need anyone else. And maybe that's enough. Or maybe you're starting to wonder if the strength you've built is the same thing as the life you actually want. Not every psychological pattern needs to be fixed, but every psychological pattern should be seen, acknowledged, understood for what it actually costs. The friendless aren't tragic figures. They're people who've survived a particular kind of erosion and built something in its place. Whether that something is a fortress or a prison depends entirely on whether they still remember how to open the door, and whether after all this time they even want to.